For the regular city council meeting for Monday, October 3rd at 5:46. And I would ask you to please silence your cell phones, put them on vibrate or silence them to keep down on any interruptions. Let's move ahead with the roll call.
Evans? Yes. Janser?
Here.
Olson? Here. Pittner?
Here.
Padragula?
Here.
Ross?
Here.
Striley?
Here.
And joining us tonight for the Pledge of Allegiance in honor of Minot State University's homecoming week next week, I've asked some of the captains of the Minot State athletic teams to come up to the dais and join us and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So come on up front. Everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go Beavers. Thanks for coming. Enjoy homecoming week next week. Mayor's report, moving on to item number 3, Mayor's report. I think the biggest things that on mine was the Sister City visit and the full day that we got to spend with the Sheehan celebration or our Sister City celebration. I also want to take the opportunity to thank all the volunteers and the Husfest organization for coming back and coming back strong. I think they put on a great show. A great 4 days in Minot, and it was really exciting to take part in all of those events. So we're happy to have you back, Husfest, and we look forward to several years of growing and growing and growing. So with that, I'll move it over to my proclamation. I gotta start reading that. It's a proclamation that Minot proclaims October 9th through the 15th as Fire Prevention Week in Minot, whereas Minot is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living, working in, and visiting our community, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern locally and nationally, with homes being where people are at greatest risk from fire, with home fires causing 2,580 civilian deaths in the United States in 2020, and creating 356,500 responses from fire departments, and whereas smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in a reported home fire in half by alerting you to danger in the event of a fire where you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape, and whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore more likely to survive a home fire, and whereas residents that are responsive to public education measures are better prepared to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Don't Wait, Plan Your Escape, effectively serves to remind Minot residents of the importance of having a home fire escape plan. Now, therefore, do I, Tom Ross, Mayor of Minot, North Dakota, hereby proclaim October 9th through the 15th as Fire Prevention Week in Minot, and urge all residents to plan and practice home fire escape plan to support the many public safety measures and efforts of our fire and emergency services. So, Chief Kelly, you want to step up? I don't know if anybody's got a hammer. Now let's move to the city manager's report.
Just a couple of things to report on this evening. First, I'd like to provide an introduction to Mr. Hayden Fredrickson. He's one of our local Minot High School students. He reached out to my office interested in a volunteer internship with my office, and so he will be working a few hours a week in my office. One, just kind of learning and watching what it takes to operate local government, and then hopefully maybe even a couple of special projects here and there. So the council may be hearing from him in the future on a project sometime next semester, next year. So Hayden, welcome. You want to stand up and wave and say hi so everyone knows who in the audience is you? Thank you. And finally, just some other good news here. Press release has come out here today with regards to some community development awards across the state. The state hands out 4 community development awards across the state, and Minot is fortunate to have garnered 2 of those awards this year, including the Project of the Year Award and the Community Development Award. This is the Community Project of the Year Award was the partnership with the Chamber with regards to the intermodal transportation facility that the city obviously had a significant role in. So I wanted to congratulate the community of Minot and our partners that have helped make this happen. I believe that we've become stronger together in our partnerships and our relationships, and I think this is indicative of what we can do when we work together as opposed to against each other. So for Minot to garner 2 of 4 statewide awards is very complimentary to our community by the state, again, that I think we're going in the right direction. So, and thanks to our partners at MACDC for their involvement in helping make these projects happen as well. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have with regards to the city manager memo that's a part of the packet and available to the public.
Comments, questions? Okay, let's move on to item number 5, consent items. We have 13 items on our consent agenda. There was none being asked to be pulled. Any request to pull any item off our consent agenda from the public? If not, what are the wishes of the council?
Move approval.
Moved by Paul,
Second.
second by Lisa. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, please call the roll.
Bittner,
Yes.
Quadrigula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Striley,
Yes.
Evans, Janser,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Moving on to action items. Item number 6.1, adopt the 2023 budget ordinance and applicable resolutions establishing rates, fees, and charges. What are the wishes of the council? Paul?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to approve with an amendment, if I may. I'd like to approve item 6.2. I'd like to propose authorizing 84 sworn officers to be authorized with this budget, but only fund 81 of them.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Mark, and that's to approve the budget with the amendment, or?
Yes, and at the behest of our finance director, we'll take the amendments one by one tonight. So that's my first one, and probably our city clerk as well. Just to expound on this, communications with the chief. I think we were all very clear that no one up here is going to oppose hiring public safety within the community. Our concern is the.
Paul, I hate to interrupt.
Oh.
We may need to do some housekeeping here first.
Mr. Mayor, is the
Pull the
motion
Roscoe.
to approve 6.1, items 1, 2, and 3 with a modification to the budget as outlined? Is that your main motion?
Yes.
Okay,
We're good?
so that's the main motion. It's not an amendment.
Okay, it's the main motion.
Should, Mr. Mayor? if
Go
I-
ahead, Paul.
Kelly, would it make sense just to approve this and then provide an amendment, or is this fine? Okay. Okay.
Where are we going?
You want me to keep talking?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, again, I don't think anybody up here, I think we were all very clear that none of us are going to object, but I think maybe to put put minds at ease of those that work for the city and the police department, that we do have a commitment to filling these positions and making sure that we are fully staffed and we have adequate resources to serve our community in the police department. I think this is a fine compromise to authorize these positions. They'll still have to come back for a budget amendment, if I'm correct, to appropriate those funds. But I'll let Dave expound on that a little bit.
Mr. Lakeford?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that is correct. There has been some discussion surrounding this. I think we have done this in the past where we had an upcoming opening that we knew was going to be the result of impending retirement or someone leaving, and they had a slate of candidates that were eligible for hiring, and the council has authorized the police chief to hire an additional person over what was included in the budget. There was money already in that line item. So for a short time period, they did exceed the number of folks, number of bodies that were in the police department. So that has been done in the past. I think the cautionary words are that I think this is a little bit of an extraordinary situation. Obviously, this is something we do not want to be doing as a matter of habit. It can cause some pressures at year end with not having enough money allocated in the budget.
Thank you, Dave. Roscoe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make another amendment to that too. And Dave, we talked about this as far as using the ARPA funds in those additional community buckets, how that was going to be, you know, a lot of administrative stuff for very little bit of money. So could we take the additional interest income for the extra 48 and get rid of the ARPA funding on it, I guess? Would that be your preference?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Straley, that would be my preference. I think Alderman Pittner had alluded to the direction that I would like this conversation to happen tonight. And I think for the point of clarity, it may be easier to address each one of these items as individual change to the first reading and then approve those changes along with the original first reading as the final action, instead of adding amendments. It gets very confusing keeping track of what's going on.
No, we have,
Yeah, we did. Paul's main motion is different.
Mine would include.
Mr. Mayor, the main motion is to approve item 6.1 with the staff recommendation, so 1, 2, and 3, with the addition of Paul's modification to authorize the 84 sworn officers, but only fund 81. So that's the current main motion. That's the motion that's on the table for discussion. Now, if we want additional amendments to that main motion, they can be made through a motion to amend.
So that would be my motion to amend. Instead of using ARPA funds for the additional roughly 48,000 for the enhancements of the community ones, use interest income general fund generally. So therefore, there wouldn't be need to report on the small, you know, because I think there's 4 places that we're going to get it. So that'd be my motion. So everybody still gets their money, however.
is there a second to the amendment? Second by Carrie. Discussion.
I guess I did it again, Mr. Mayor. Discussed it before the vote, but my discussion will be just that instead of having Dave have to go to each of the entities and audit essentially, well, where did you spend that $8,000 of ARPA funds? Because it's federal money. This way, it eliminates that burden, and we've got additional revenue with what interest rates are done or have done recently, anyways.
Just to clarify, Roscoe, or Dave, what is coming out of what fund now?
Mr. Mayor, Alderwoman Evans, what we have seen is we've seen an increase in the rate of return that the city is earning on its cash reserves. So that has changed just in the last several weeks. So we would be able to essentially increase our projection with what we would have for interest revenues for the general fund and be able to allocate that additional revenue dollars to the community contributions and not have to use the ARPA funding source.
Great. And is the updated budget you provided, does it take into account the increased interest rates that our funds will get in 2023?
Mr. Mayor, Alderwoman Evans, it does not.
Okay. So when that comes in, does it just go into the general fund? What is going to happen? How does that money?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Alderwoman Evans, any revenue over and above what is contemplated in the annual budget would just end up as fund balance.
Okay.
Now, I do want to caution everyone here that the interest rate that we have, some of that money is allocated to special revenue funds that can only be used for a certain purpose, for example, flood control or NAS, those types of things. So not all of that additional revenue will go into the general fund, but we're confident that we would have enough with the interest rate environment the way it is today to fund these additional requests for community contributions.
Thanks for the clarification.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to make a comment, but I think it's going to come out of order, but if it doesn't come out of order, we're going to vote without it being clarified. So I hope I'm okay. So I like the modifications that Alderman Pittner has recommended for the 3 police department positions that had originally been taken out of his original proposal. And I can support that. I have a little heartburn on the budget amendments that we are going to have to consider in 2023. We deal with budget amendments on a very regular basis, but it's typically because of some unknown issue that has come before us, and we have to deal with it. Finance department says, yes, we can find the money. City council, will you approve it? Right now, I think it's our due diligence to levy for these positions if we anticipate that we would approve them in 2023. So my preference would truly be to levy the tax for those 3 positions. And if the chief was not able to fill those positions, that money would roll into a building fund that Alderman Pittner had referenced a number of meetings ago. But I just think it's not responsible on our part to go into 2023 saying, yes, we can amend the budget when we really could make it right at this point. So I'd like to make an amendment or a motion to amend, but I don't believe that I can at this point because we have a motion to amend on the table. So I just wanted to get that information out. We'll vote on Alderman Striley's amendment, and then if possible, I would make an amendment after that.
Roscoe?
thank you. Yeah, I guess I don't have much else to add other than, I mean, simple math. The city's generating 8,000 more a day in interest. So I mean, it's this can be covered in a week from the current budget. As far as addressing further, I guess I won't support anything that increases the mill levy a dime for the 2023 budget. I think it's fine where it's at with the changes and cuts we've made. The budget still is going up overall. If you look at the actual budget, that includes sales tax projections and additional state revenue and other revenue sources. I mean, the budget's going up 15, 16%, Dave, roughly. Now, that's not property tax, that's in whole. The property tax piece would be, flat-ish.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Striley, I would just caution, though, that some of the impact of the actual budget increase is from actual expenditures of funds, for example, flood control and NAS, for funding that has been accumulated for a specific purpose and is now being spent for that purpose. So that can impact those numbers as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. And the additional $2.5 million we obviously put into roads too. So I mean, there's valid reasons for it. As far as the mill levy, where it's at in this first draft, I think is where it should end.
Okay. Any other comments? Nothing else? Let's call the roll on the amendment to the motion.
Striley?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Pittner?
Yes.
Padragula?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes. Now back to the main motion. Any further discussion? Paul?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Dave, do you want me to take wayfinding and facade separately? Or can I do those ones together?
We couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry,
Paul.
yeah, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
I was just asking Dave. Oh, so just real quick. I'd make a motion to amend to, out of the economic development dollars in sales tax, to appropriate $232,000 for the first phase of the wayfinding signage program, as well as the remaining projected $313 remaining dollars to the facade improvement program.
Second.
It's a motion by Paul, second by Carrie. Go ahead. Clarification.
Paul, what was that second number?
$513,313. If I may continue, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yep, just wanted, this was a part of my president's letter. I think these are worthwhile programs to keep moving forward. Again, we do these studies or we get these programs and they either get shelved or we don't maintain them to see the momentum really pay off. So again, it's my intention to fund these things for this upcoming year as well as into the future. I'd like to see these things move forward and to see our community move forward on this front. So,
Roscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, does there's enough money flowing through the sales tax piece to cover the 533 that we did plus all what was listed by Alderman Pittner?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Striley, the initial surplus that would have gone into cash reserves in the preliminary budget was $844,083. So looking at the rough math, after we take out the additional funding that was proposed at the first reading for MAC EDC, that should be right to the dollar.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't support this either through direct comments that were sent to me, said to me, or social media comments. There appeared to be very little support for the wayfinding project. I could stand completely behind the facade improvement program, but I don't think that our residents want to see dollars put into wayfinding. So I'm sorry, I can't support that.
Steve?
I have similar feelings. I was wondering if Paul would be willing to split the two. I'm more than willing to support the facade improvements, but I can't support the arches downtown as part of wayfinding.
I'll split them, that's fine. Do I have to withdraw my motion and make a new motion?
Mr. Mayor and members of council, technically you would have to vote on it and then start again. Or you could make a motion to split the motion into two
I'd
questions.
make a motion to split then.
Second.
Motion to split, and there's a second. Who seconded?
I did.
Lisa? Okay. All in favor of splitting the question, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. The first motion, the First Amendment will be on the wayfinding. No further discussion? Paul?
I guess I'll discuss it. I made the motion, I'll defend it. I think this is a good thing for the community. There's negativity, we're never going to please everyone. There's negativity on both sides of all issues. And again, we as council members are a part of this process, a part of this research, a part of the studies, a part of the adoption of these things. And again, we can say they're public comments. When we have the same keyboard warriors making negative comments, I tend not to listen to those things because some people just hate progress. Some people hate new things. And I'm going to be supportive because I do believe this is a good thing for our community moving forward. So I'll be supportive of it.
Mark?
I'm going to support this because I think there's sort of two pieces to this wayfinding thing. And the large arches come later. And I know people have some concerns about those and the cost specifically. And so I think the wayfinding is a good idea. I think we have a sales job to do about the large arches designating the downtown area, and that can be done into the future. So I will support this and hope that we have some additional discussion on the latter part of the plan as we go.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else? If not, call the roll.
Pittner,
Yes.
Quadrigula,
No.
Ross,
Yes.
Striley,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson,
Nope.
Move on to the second split, which is the facade improvement program. Is there any further discussion there? If not, call the roll.
Pittner,
Yes.
Quadrigula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Striley,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Now back to the main motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I
Lisa.
would like to offer my motion to amend and to levy the tax to cover the cost for the 3 police department positions that had been taken out of the budget. And if I get a second, I'll have a question for the.
Second.
Thank you. I do have a question for the finance director. You were able to tell us the reduction in residents' property tax based on a property valued at $100,000. So if we added these positions back in, can you give us a rough estimate as to what the difference will be? And I know I put you on the spot here. I apologize for that.
Mr. Mayor, Alderwoman Evans, the amount for the additional police officers for all 3 positions, so the 2 that were eliminated with the 1 additional one that was requested in the preliminary budget, that total was $225,127, so roughly equivalent to 1 mil. So doing the math quickly, that would be about $4.50, I believe. Off
Per
the top-
100,000.
Per 100,000.
Okay. I think it's money well spent. That's all I can say there.
Roscoe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I'd hope we'd reject it. There's 10 open positions or more now. This is meeting halfway, I think. It's saying, okay, prove that you can fill them. I mean, we all want them filled. There's nobody up here that doesn't want them filled. The fact of the matter is, you can't fill them. So I think that's the biggest issue is we're authorizing something we know isn't going to happen. So why fund them at this point? If they get filled, then we can come with a budget amendment. I don't get why those are scary. To me, I think that's just prudent. Is if things change next year, obviously with what's going on inflation-wise, recession-wise, it's going to impact us at some point, but then we've got the buffer of additional income from interest income. So, I mean, I think we're sitting in a good spot right now. If things change and all the positions get filled before these 3 positions, then fine, come back, we'll fund them.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm going to echo Alderman Striley's comments. Obviously, there was a little bit of heartburn over this decision to remove them from the budget and not approve the new ones through our conversations with the chief. A department head meeting that the mayor and I sat in. That was the concern, was that if we remove them, we won't get them back. We're leaving them in there. Now we're giving them. They're there. They're there. If we can hire all 10 positions and fill them, we will approve the budget amendment for them. We will approve the funds. They are authorized to be hired. So again, I don't see this. To me, I think this is a good compromise. To me, this is making everybody feel warm and fuzzy inside and being able to move forward. So I'm gonna reject this motion.
Any other comments? If not, let's vote on the motion to amend.
Can you reread the motion so people remember what they're voting on?
The motion to amend is to levy the tax for the 3 sworn officers. Olson,
Yes.
Pittner,
No.
Quadrigula,
No.
Ross,
No.
Striley,
No.
Evans,
No.
Janser.
No.
Back to the main motion. Any further discussion? Nothing further? Call the roll. Oh, you gotta find it.
Mr. Mayor, if I
go
may
ahead.
interrupt, just for a point of clarification, before we vote, at the first reading, Alderman Striley had moved to increase the funding for MAC EDC. The specific dollar amount was $533,770. I think the dialogue referenced an original request. What was in MAC EDC's original application that we received was what was included in the original budget. This $533,770 was specifically outlined in the presentation that MAC EDC had done to the city council. I believe it was in June. So I just want to make sure that everyone is clear with that the changes that we have done after the first reading of the budget reflects the specific dollar amount of $533,770.
Yep. Okay.
Pittner,
Yes.
Quadrigula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Striley,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Moving on to item 6.2, purchase of used snow removal equipment to replace the totaled snow removal equipment. What are the wishes of the
moved.
council? So move. Is that Mark? I have a motion by Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve. Discussion. Mark, Harold.
So, as you're aware, we lost a piece of snow equipment during the April blizzard. I call it the day of fire and ice. But this is an effort, so to order a new piece of equipment with supply chain issues and those types of things, we're 2 years out for delivery. And so this is an effort, staff has done a good job of trying to find some used options that can fill in for the interim and provide our needs. And so this is a little bit out of the ordinary because it's hard to get multiple quotes when you're looking for used equipment and there's not a whole lot out there. So this is a temporary solution. This also represents a bit of a cost savings to the community and buys us some time until either supply chain issues catch up or we can order a new piece of equipment and we can hopefully afford to wait the 2-year delay. So I wanted to give some kudos to staff for their due diligence and scouring the country for some used equipment that can meet our needs in the interim, and we don't have to wait 2 years before we can remove snow out at the airport.
Harold. Steve.
I also wanted to compliment staff, particularly in terms of the analysis of the options. Usually we get a summary of bids and one is recommended, but here there was a nice analysis of the strengths and weaknesses of the other pieces of equipment that were out there, and I found that very refreshing and helps me come to a decision. So thank you for providing us that analysis.
Gary.
I'm going to support this, but I'm just curious, did we get any insurance for the total loss?
We did get some insurance money, and that'll be applied towards the purchase of this, so it's not completely out of general fund. I do not remember the amount we got from insurance and how that compares to what we're purchasing, though.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the amount of funding that was received from the insurance was quite a bit more than what the cost of this used piece of equipment is. But bear in mind that the anticipation is that some point in the near future, we'll need to purchase an additional new piece of equipment.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, please call the roll.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Pittner,
Yes.
Quadrigula.
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Striley,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Moving on to item 6.3, the appointment of an interim city manager and recommended, I'm sorry,
This got awkward real quick.
All on your future endeavors.
wow. Sorry, Harold. I apologize for that. Interim city attorney and recommended temporary salary increase.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Lisa, seconded by Paul. Is there any discussion? Roscoe.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think we should vote no on this. I mean, there's a process going on right now to hire the new city manager.
Attorney,
Geez,
city attorney.
I did it, sorry. City attorney. I think we should stick with what we're doing. There's 3 candidates, I believe, that have applied. They haven't interviewed them yet. To me, this is putting the cart before the horse a little bit, maybe gives an advantage. I don't think that that's right. I think we should let the committee do what we're charged to do and wait until that's done.
I have a
What's the timeline on the hiring committee?
So we will be, Lisa Junt we have the interview panel chosen, and she is just coordinating schedules. So it will be by the end of the month, we'll have all 3 candidates interviewed. So to continue on with Roscoe's point, I too have some consternation about this, not because of the person or Stephanie, but we are so close in the process. And I think the optics, I mean, I just, you know, I feel like there's been a pattern of setting up sort of positions of interims, and then, you know, the hiring panel saying, well, this person's been doing this job already, so let's just offer it to them. And, you know, I want the candidate who has offered the city attorney position to get that based on their qualifications in the interview process. And so I have spoken to our former city attorney, Kelly Hendershot, who is willing to, you know, extend her part-time contract through, you know, our interview process. And that we're not talking 6 months, we're talking, you know, 4 to 6 weeks. And I would just be more comfortable with that because we are so close to finishing the process.
Steve?
Yeah, I kind of would echo Carrie's remarks. The only concern I have is if Stephanie or somebody else is going to be doing the work, then I think they need to get paid for it. If Kelly will be staying on and acting as the senior attorney, then I have no problem with that. I think that is a cleaner kind of position, but just want to make sure we're not taking advantage of staff. by
No,
having
I
to
would
do
just
more.
propose the current contract we have with Ms. Hendershot runs through October 7th. Just literally the same terms and conditions and hourly, you know, rate that is in there, you know, be extended for, you know.
So is that a substitute motion or an amendment or?
Well, no, we have to vote on the main motion first, I guess.
Okay.
Any other comments? Kelly?
Just for clarification, I don't have a contract with the city. I'm a part-time employee. And
Well,
it's
okay.
supposed to end on October 7th. I've provided very limited services for the city, only on request from the city manager or from some staff within our office. I think having an employee who's here full-time, it's going to, I'm not supervising employees right now. So I think there is that's something for the council's consideration, at least. I don't know if the city manager has thoughts on that or on how much he sent my way, things like that.
So my understanding of how we got to this point was we received the resignation of the city attorney, which is appointed by the city council. During that time frame, our assistant city attorney was out on leave and would not be returning until today. Obviously, we didn't want to go all of September without any legal counsel on board. And with the former city attorney's transition to her new position, there was some concern about what time she would have available to dedicate to the city. I was directed by the council to negotiate a memorandum of agreement with Ms. Hendershot with regards to her ability to continue to meet the needs of the city during the interim until the assistant city attorney returned. At the end of the day, this is the council's decision. This is your appointment. The city attorney's office does not report to me as the city manager. My advice, though, would be is we've had several projects that we felt were too comprehensive for Ms. Hendershot to handle on a part-time basis, and I don't know that she'd even be willing to do that. I agree with Ms. Hendershot's assessment that she is not providing any supervision of the attorney's office. And if you want to extend her agreement beyond October 7th, that's fine. But I would argue and recommend that given the additional workload of the assistant city attorney in this time frame, the council should at least still consider a salary increase for her because there's going to be some workload that's been waiting that even with our agreement with Ms. Hendershot isn't going to meet the need. So I'm fine if Ms. Hendershot agrees and she wants to continue to be the lead and provide her support on a part-time basis. But again, I think that the assistant city attorney should be compensated a little bit more for the additional workload that's going to happen until the new city attorney is appointed by the council.
Mark?
It strikes me that we're going to be in this situation for a couple of months. You know, the interview process may well get done by the end of this month or early November, but by the time somebody makes a transition out of a existing place or job, you know, it seems very probable that we could be looking at this situation for 60 days or more. And you know, I guess going back to Alderman Potter-Eula's comment, I think if somebody is, you know, carrying the workload, I think it's important that we pay them for that.
I have a question for Ms. John. Are we able to do the 10% increase for the assistant city attorney without, like, can we just do that? Like without appointing the assistant city attorney interim?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Alderwoman Evans, we can do that for extra workloads.
Okay.
There is a capability of doing that, yes.
Okay,
It's put on as temporary pay, so.
okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Lisa.
I think the reality is that Ms. Dahlheim is going to have the responsibilities of the city attorney, whether we name her interim or not. And so I think it's just fitting that we do name her interim city attorney. We don't know what comes ahead of us in the next 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks. And I think that she needs to be given that title for the responsibility that she is going to carry. And I certainly believe that she should have the increase in pay for the extra work.
I can see it from both sides, but, you know, the thought that keeps coming down, and thank you, Kelly, for your service. It's been priceless for me, except you got to keep me from saying city manager instead of city attorney. But you know that you hire an assistant to step in when the top dog is gone. And I just think it's, you know, is it an advantage? I don't see it's an advantage, and I don't think Steph sees it as an advantage. I think it's just we got to look out for the workload, and we got to look out for the staff that we have right now. So I'll be voting in favor of this. So, anything else? Call the roll.
We remind, the motion is to approve, correct?
Oh,
No, it's to approve.
It's to approve the appointment.
yeah.
Do you want me to clarify the whole thing?
We're voting to approve this position.
Yes.
Yes,
Olson?
yes.
Pittner?
Yes.
Quadrigula?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Striley?
No.
Evans?
No.
Janser?
Yes.
Moving on to 6.4, Paving in Utility District 2021-1, amendments. What are the wishes of the council?
So moved.
Moved by Mark,
Second?
second by Lisa. Any discussion? No discussion? Call the roll.
Janser?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Pittner?
Yes.
Quadrigula?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Striley?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Moving on to 6.5, Ad hoc Committee, Employee Benefits and Wage Review Committee. What are the wishes of the council?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Roscoe,
Second.
second by Paul. Discussion. Roscoe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Point of this is to get everybody on board, I guess, from a council perspective, one from the public, city manager, employees, and doing a deep dive over the next 6 months or so on the benefit package, the salary, how salaries are adjustments are come to fruition. And I just think this is not a criticism of anybody, not even close. This is actually, I think, gives us some tools to look at better benefits, potentially, a better pay structure for city staff, and easier to budget on. I think this committee, the way it's compromised, and if it needs to, members, you know, if people don't agree with some of the members I picked out here, that's fine. We can tweak it a little. I'm not stuck on 9. I'm not stuck on who's on it, but that's just kind of what I came up with. And then a strategic partnership with the Park District, I don't even know if that's doable. I have no idea. That would be the part of the committee, is to look at all options think outside the box, maybe bid as a group. Now, can we even do that? I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. That's where I think it's worth looking at this. As far as the healthcare piece, I mean, I've said it before, but I think it just has to be bid every year. I don't see that as an option of not bidding it every year, unless it's a multi-year contract with locked prices or something. Then I could support that. But and that would be what this committee would do. Timeline on it, I think I put May 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So during the budget process of next year, we'd have some very good data to work off of, and just help craft the best policies and possible.
Mark?
I guess I would ask, maybe this is, I'm not sure who to ask, but
Can't hear you, I'm sorry.
we have a process ongoing, I believe, with a consultant to address some of these issues, I believe. Can somebody explain to me, does that blend in with this at all?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Janser, we are currently just finishing up with a broker who is looking at rates for us, and we will be bringing a recommendation forward that will reduce our rates an additional amount. We just don't have the final figures. We're anticipating to get those this week.
And also, it's my understanding, Roscoe, that it's not just that component, but also, looking at things like, is there a way we can financially up that percentage, the 82, 92 of the contribution? So it's not just the actual product, but can we get a better product for our employees, right? Like, that would be more inclusive or stuff, more benefits.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Evans, or Alderwoman Evans. Yeah, I mean, is it a high deductible plan? Is it a, higher deductibles but yet HSA? I mean, I think all this stuff should be looked at from a committee standpoint, not just, an individual or two. It's nothing against anybody. It's just, I think, more transparency, more engagement from the council, from staff itself is important. For example, I don't think in this broker deal, I don't think United Health was even brokered. Did they even get a chance to bid on it?
They denied bidding. The RFP was sent to them.
And from the broker?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Well, it's my understanding they want to bid, so that's interesting. Because the Minot Public moved, and so did Trinity. So to me, I'd like everybody at the table. I mean, we're not going to get the best deal if we can't get everybody at the table. That includes insurance companies, employees themselves, so they understand the benefit package, the benefits of going to an HSA, heavy plan versus a low deductible, a very, very expensive plan that we have now.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just say one point, I have no problem with the ad hoc committee. The issue that I see is that we are a civil service-based organization, and things that discuss pay and non-monetary benefits do generally go through civil service first. So I think it's imperative that our Civil Service Commission be part of this ad hoc committee. And also, we currently do have a policy review committee made up of more than 20 of our employees that are currently working on a process they've been working on for months. And there is some concern of the 3 members of the Minot employees as to if what they've been working on, if it's going to be reviewed or if it's just going to be thrown by the wayside. So that is a concern.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we'll look at everything. Has anybody on council had any input on any of this healthcare benefits over the last 20 years? And I think the answer is generally no, other than, we increased the cost share the other day. But I just think council should be more involved in this, and some people might not agree, but I firmly believe that.
I don't disagree with that. I just believe that we do need to follow a process.
And Mr. Mayor, if civil service needs to be on, they can gladly have a seat or two on here. I wholeheartedly welcome that.
So just from my understanding, wouldn't any recommendations that this ad hoc committee make have to go to the Civil Service Commission before it would come to us anyways. So there would be an opportunity.
Except that I think that it would probably be important to have them at the table at the beginning, because it just wouldn't make any sense if they have no voice in this, and then you send it to them and they just say, no, this isn't going to work for us, and then
How many people are on the commission?
there are 3 people on the Civil Service Commission.
Okay, so I think you should amend your recommendation to add 2 more and 2 people from the Civil Service Commission.
That's just fine with me. I would amend my motion to include that.
Second agrees.
And then the 3 city, and I mean, you know, I think Roscoe probably will be one of the city council members on that, like, I
don't have to be.
What?
I don't
But
have to be.
whatever the 7 of us are on there, I would trust that this policy review, like all of that, is going to be brought to the table. I mean, nobody's interested in, you know, redeveloping the wheel. If, you know, I know this policy committee has been working hard on these things, and, you know, hey, they can save a lot of work from the committee, probably. So I'm confident any of the 7 of us, you know, will absolutely make sure that their recommendations and all their work is part of the process.
Thank you.
Steve?
Question, a comment. I guess the first question for Roscoe would be, is there some reason for specifically mentioning the Park District as someone to explore collaboration with, as opposed to, for example, the schools or the county?
Mr. Mayor, Steve, no, not, I mean, other than the county's got a 100% paid one, so that would be a tough collaborator there, I guess. Park District, I would assume, is generally the same. They're 75-ish full-time employees. They have about 300 when they staff up. Obviously not all under benefits, but so similar size when they're staffed up. I have no idea if they'd even want to participate. Maybe not, but I mean, the larger the group you can create, the better, of course.
That's what I'm wondering. Would you be willing to change that to Park District and other local governmental subdivisions? In case there was
Absolutely.
some good
I would say
partner?
governmental entities and quasi-governmental entities.
It's even better, thank you.
Right, because there could be something out there that, you know what I mean?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
My question for Ms. Gent. Of these other governmental entities, are any of them self-funded, or is the city of Minot the only that would be self-funded?
Alderwoman Olson, I couldn't tell you that. I believe that the Park District is fully funded, so I don't think they're self-insured, but I can't answer that.
Okay.
Harold?
If I may, so just one point of issue, and that is if you appoint 2 of the Civil Service Commission, that represents a quorum of that group, which, given it's an ad hoc committee, it's going to have to be posted publicly anyway, similar to what we're doing with the Magic Fund ad hoc committee. So I don't know how much of an issue that is, but just a point of order of a technicality there. So in my career, I've dealt with a lot of health insurance issues. I've changed providers, I've changed deductible plans, I've participated in insurance pools, all those kinds of things. I'm not opposed to creating the ad hoc committee. I don't know that it's, when you're making decisions, sometimes you have to decide which is more important, the outcome or the process. And sometimes the process is important. I don't know that this is the right process, but if this is what the council wants to do, I do agree that having representatives of the Civil Service Commission will be key and integral. I will also caution that of all the things I've dealt with in my career that has caused the most consternation and employee morale issues is making significant changes and alterations to health insurance. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't explore changes. I think staff has received that message loud and clear, going all the way back to the prioritization session in June with the council. And I think staff is committed to turning over every rock and looking at every option. We've already begun that process. I alluded to that in my city manager memo for this evening's meeting. But I also would urge an abundance of caution that even with the best of communication and involvement in employees, this is going to create some friction and some dissatisfaction with employees. And having recently returned from the International City Management Association Conference and hearing across the board, across the country, that labor pools are shrinking. Everyone is having a difficult time refilling positions. I'm a little afraid of the risk of making employees upset that are now more mobile than ever because they can go get a job anywhere. And then our inability to refill those positions once they're gone. That is concerning to me. Again, I believe it's in our best interest to do our due diligence and look at the alternatives and try to find a solution that is both financially sustainable for this organization for the future and hopefully will result in higher employee satisfaction. But my experience tells me going through this, no matter how much we believe it's better for the employees at the end, many of those employees will feel like something is being taken away from them and will create some potential issues and challenges for this organization in the future. So I give that caution. Also, speaking to including other non-governmental entities, it was a popular model here probably about 10 years ago to have insurance pools. My experience over the last 10 years is those have done away. Those tend to gravitate towards having high claim employees on them, which undermines the pool. And most of your insurance providers, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, United, those types of things, aren't very supportive of those types of models anymore. Now, we can explore it. We can look at it. That may have changed here within the last couple of years since the last time I talked to a consultant. I'm willing to explore that. But the market hasn't borne that as a success over the last 10, 15 years.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you're jumping to a few conclusions. Like, we don't know what it's going to be. That's the point of the committee. Let's hash it out. Let's see what's out there. There's nothing this committee's the council's got to vote on everything. So this committee's just going to say, hey, this is what we found. Guess what? Everything we're doing is perfectly great. No changes. We don't see anything changes. That could be a very likely outcome. But I think just going through the process, getting into the weeds a little bit on this, I mean, it's going to, even if we change the plan, nobody's saying we're going to change it negatively for the city employee. I mean, if you went to a high deductible plan, for example, there's going to be a heck of a lot more money in the city employees' pockets, just based off common sense and data. I'm not saying that's where we end up, but let's just look at it. Let's scrub it. Let's get their input on it and see where we go. But just because we're down or flat this year in healthcare doesn't mean anything. It's up $2 million over the last 2 years, 2.5 years. It went from $4 million to $6 million. That's a problem. So we got to figure out a solution that's great for the taxpayer and importantly for the employee, because they're paying out of their pocket $436. That's going to continue to go up if we don't address some of these issues. I don't want it to go up. I want it to go down.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Lisa.
I made this comment 2 weeks ago, and I'll make the comment again today. It is not our role to micromanage. It is our role to make a decision when information is brought to us. I feel like this process has started with our city staff, and I think it needs to stay with our city staff until they have appropriate information to bring to us. So I don't think that there is a need for an ad hoc committee. I guess if my colleagues believe that there is, I would make one other recommendation in the list of people on the committee, and that would be that you would include one retired employee.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm fine with that, but the plan hasn't been officially bid in 20 years. That's a problem. I'm sorry, it just is.
And can I just get a clarification, Roscoe, that this also, one of the things that, I mean, you brought to light, so I looked at that wage review study, whatever, was, that, there was some alarming, particularly for our entry-level employees, wage discrepancies. So part of this committee would be in conjunction with the other, the wage survey and stuff, looking at and that as well, because the whole goal is to work on, finding and hiring and retaining employees, not taking away things. But I just want to confirm that that wage review and some of those discrepancies in our entry-level employees would be part of the discussions of this committee.
Yes, absolutely, and that's in another agenda item. We can just cover it here. It probably makes more sense, actually, because that would be part of it, too. I mean, the salary survey, I'll say, I've said it 100 times, everybody's probably sick and tired of hearing it, but it's deeply flawed. Like, I mean, the positions we can't retain, I think I've sent you all the spreadsheet. I mean, you've got police officer masters, a bunch of them. You've got fire inspector twos. They're getting 2.5% raises. Well, now you go up the chart. Well, because the salary survey says and I'm not picking on anybody. It's going to sound like it because I'm going to name the positions, but I'm not. It's just you can't do it without picking these out. But I mean, you've got 121 positions right now, or 119 positions that are going to get a 7.5% or greater raise. And we just passed that in the budget. It went through, the salary survey went through. I think doesn't make any sense the way it's done. So we go and we say, hey, Fargo, what are you paying your airport director? What are you paying your city manager? What are you paying your director of public works? What are you paying your police officers? Well, how can you compare an airport director of Fargo who has 400,000 employments versus Minot that has way less than that? Now, I mean, that's just an example of one position, but that's the methodology used on determining what wages are. Well, so then what does Fargo do? Oh, well, we do the same thing. Well, Minot's paying higher now. You're just trying to catch each other, and there's no rational reason for it. It's just, well, that's what Sioux Falls is. That's what Bismarck is for the like positions, and I just think it's fundamentally unfair for some in this thing, in the wage piece. I mean, there's a lot of positions that are under 2.5%. Well, that's not enough. That's not enough of a cost of living increase generally from what we're seeing. I mean, you're looking at the state is going to do, I think, probably 5. So now you're leaving a bunch behind, but then the top 125 are getting 7.5. Well, there's virtually nobody in the private sector that's going to do 7.5 to 16% raises. It's just it's wrong, and I think that has to be looked at.
Mr. Mayor, could I just make a comment concerning that? I do agree that our entry level, we do have issues with that, and that has been expressed in the last 2 years with the salary survey that I've expressed that. The concern that I have is that we also have a huge compression issue. So last year when our police officers, for example, because we've used them as an example, were receiving 7.5 to 10%, our upper people were only getting the 2% and 2.5%. So now we've got this big squeeze coming, and how do you stick this very structured plan into a new structure without having issues with all levels? That's the concern and the problem that we're going to run into. And I do agree there needs to be a salary review.
And I'm not suggesting. Sorry.
A second, Rob. Steve?
Yeah, I just had a question for Harold. I noticed that the copy of this, or the title of this proposal is Employee Benefits and Wage Review Committee. And one of the things that you've mentioned in the past, Harold, is you'd like to be looking at getting us toward a performance-based compensation system. And we've talked about that at some of our council retreats of trying to come up with something that seems fair in terms of recognizing the market. I mean, I'd answer Roscoe when he asked, well, what's the rationale for this? The rationale is the free market. I mean, capitalism, I mean, come on, that's to be the rationale. I don't care how much percentage people get. What I care about personally is that they're paid what they're worth, and I think the best way of determining what they're worth is analyzing what the market says. And we do make adjustments, human resources professionals do make adjustments in terms of different responsibilities, size of caseloads, things like that. So I think that's a given. I don't think we automatically endorse Fargo because, we equate the job responsibilities the same. But I want to get back to this issue that we've talked about as a council, and Harold has talked about, is of looking at an entire package of benefits. One of the things you've mentioned, Harold, is a cafeteria plan, in a sense, of employees maybe being able to choose what kind of benefits that they're more salient to them. For some, it might be better health insurance, for some, it might be better retirement, for some, it might be maybe educational benefits or whatever. And I'd like to know how you would see this proposal kind of dovetailing with what you've talked about and we've talked about, a comprehensive benefits package. Because as important as pay is in health insurance, I think if we're going to be opening this thing up in the sense of Pandora's box potentially, I think we really need to take a careful and comprehensive look at every way that we reinforce and reward employees staying with us, coming to us and staying with us, and being more productive and being better public servants. So how do you see this fitting in, Harold, to what you've talked about and what we've talked about?
I think at the end of the day, I agree, this is a conversation that needs to be had. And the question is what is the process that we use to have that conversation? My opinion is I think that conversation is best held with our policy review committee that has representatives of employees, and I think that including the Civil Service Commission by city ordinance, that is the process that the city has elected to use to have these conversations in the past. And I think that methodology works. Again, there's going to be a lot of difficult conversations here. I think even tonight, I think we're oversimplifying the conversation about all the complexities that go into this and jumping to assumptions and conclusions without really understanding what it is that we're talking about this evening and the complexity that comes with putting together a compensation package. How do you make sure that that's market comparable, all those types of things. In addition, it's also difficult, again, to have these conversations without rumors going and employees starting to get upset before they even understand what all the potential changes and discussions are being had, right? And that's just based off of my experience again. So again, the process matters. Again, I think this is an important conversation. I've talked about it. To answer Alderman Padragula's question, yes, I would like to get to a system of a benefit package that allows for flexibility throughout the career of an employee as their needs change. The challenge with that is that's a bit more forward thinking than a lot of my colleagues across city government or any government are looking at right now. We're so steeped in the old traditions of how we do things. And again, being at ICMA, I went through the vendors area where there includes many consultants with regards to HR issues. And I talked to every one of them that I possibly could about, can you provide consulting to do this concept? None of them know how to do it. We're talking about creating something from scratch here that is unneeded. And I'm not afraid to go down that aisle, and I hope I have the support of the council, the community, and the employees to do that. But we're going to talk about adapting and changing something that hasn't been done before. And to be honest with you, that's been difficult for government to do in the past. So I'm willing to lead on that and do that. But again, the process is going to be important. We're going to talk about a lot of pros and cons, a lot of potential changes. And there has to be confidence both from the staff and the council with regard to that we're going to have a lot of conversations and weigh a lot of things that may or may not come to fruition. And but the process matters. My preference would be is to use the City Policy Review Committee in partnership with the Civil Service Commission to have that conversation. Well, I'm warning you, this is going to be a tough conversation, and there's going to be a lot of people that get really upset because this is a complicated issue that a lot of people think they understand that they don't.
Anything? Well,
I'll just give my thoughts on this. Again, I agree with all sides. I think everybody's making good points. And I don't want to lose the forest through the trees here. At the end of the day, this is something that hasn't been looked at in over 20 years or in about 20 years. I think it is something that needs to be looked at. I think there's been some work done by an employee committee that can lend itself to this process. I think there's been some work done. But you know, if we're going to not make decisions or postpone decisions because of fear, those concerns and those fears, no matter if we look at it now or we look at it a year from now, they're going to be there. And again, I don't want to let that preclude us from moving forward and trying to do the best we can for the organization, but as well as our employees, our current employees, and making ourselves more competitive for new employees. I mean, the city, yeah, do I want to save a buck? Yeah, but not on the backs of our employees. And I don't think anyone up here is wanting to do that. So it's a tough conversation. It's a tough decision. I'm not going to pretend to know all of it. Most of it, a little bit of it, and that's why I think the ad hoc committee is a good idea. I think it is time to move this forward. I'll be supportive of it because I think it's something that needs to be done. Alderman Shriley and I might disagree. I don't know if it has to be done every year, but definitely more than 20. And I think best time to plant a tree is 50 years ago, and I think we're about 20 years, I'll say 18 years, maybe late on this one. So my thoughts.
anybody else? Go ahead. I want to just have Kayla.
I just want to make sure that we're all under the same understanding. So Roscoe, you motioned for the recommendation to be approved. I know that.
Ended it though, adding.
Yep,
Okay,
and
okay.
And there was a friendly amendment to add 2 people for the Civil Service
Yep.
Committee. I also heard 2 other friendly amendments, but I never heard whether or not they were going to get approved. So I heard Alderwoman Olson make a motion or a friendly amendment for a retired employee, and I never heard if that was going to happen. And we've also discussed asking other governmental entities around the Minot Park District area. So I just want to get clarification on if we're doing any of those extras or not.
I think the only amendment that was actually made was for the civil service, and that hasn't been voted on, I don't believe, if anybody wants to jog their memory.
For the Civil Service Commission, the 2 members? That one? Is that what we're talking about?
Are we
Did you just
considering
make
that a
that
friendly
motion?
amendment or a motion to amend?
Or Roscoe, are you just redoing your whole recommendation? Are you gonna add it? What are we doing here?
Sure, we can take the motion and then do an amendment to it, or whatever's easiest for city clerk.
I mean, I believe that Roscoe and Paul
Let's
both,
just do, you know what,
both
let's do
did
the
the
motion.
approval
Let's
of the
just do
friendly
Roscoe's motion and then do amendments to it. I think it'll be easier. Cleaner at this point, don't you?
So can you remind us of what the amended motion is?
The amended part of the motion is to add 2 civil service positions to the recommendation.
But we've had other, okay. I want to stick with the original recommendation and then just make amendments. But I don't know. What
What do you recommend, Kelly?
I think the main motion is to approve the recommendation that's outlined on the agenda.
Yep.
So if you want to change from that recommendation or that main motion, I would suggest doing a motion to amend.
Okay, so do we have a motion? We have a motion to amend, to add 2 civil service commission
Okay, yes, a
members.
motion to amend to add 2 civil service position, or whatever, and 1 retired city employee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Is there any more
Okay, so
discussion?
that's the first motion to amend.
Any further discussion? Okay, call the roll on the motion to amend.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Striley.
Yes.
On to
And then the second motion to amend is to expand the strategic partnership feasibility and desirability to governmental entities and quasi-governmental entities instead of the Minot Park District specifically.
Second.
It's a motion to amend and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think we're just muddying the water even more by going down that road. I think we have to address what's happening within the city before we reach out to other organizations, because we have questions that we don't even know how to ask yet. So I think we're going too far with that.
Roscoe?
Thank you. And it's not to say, I mean, this committee forms up, decides, okay, let's not go down that road. I mean, this isn't, I don't think, I'm not proposing requiring it, but just even a discussion item. If it's 20 minutes, no, it's not worth it this time. Let's move on. Next agenda item. I mean, I'm not proposing that these be like adjournment, you have to do this type stuff.
Any further discussion? If not, call the roll.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson,
No.
Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Striley.
Yes.
Back to the original motion. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
there was someone that came to the podium. I don't know if you still wanted to speak.
My name's Kenton Cozen. I'm the president of the Fraternal Order of Police, which is the largest police labor organization in the country. My recommendation would be that you have quite a cross-section of city employees represented by both myself and members of a fire union. I would respectfully request that we be included in the conversation. I think, to be honest with you, as a citizen, I'm disappointed that we're not solicited in more of these conversations well in advance. So just throwing me and I don't know if the firefighters are interested, at least maybe having a spot for both of us, because we represent a very large portion of city employees and would request a couple spots on this committee as well. And the benefit to you guys is I routinely talk with city employees on a daily basis and purport to them that I'm their voice, and I would just like to be heard. I'm a very good way of communicating things to those employees. So once again, as the city manager's laid out very well, is that a lot of times communication starts to get mumbled. And I think that if you were to put some labor organization representation onto this committee, that a lot of those things can get quashed, those rumors. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, call the roll.
Striley,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson,
Nope.
Pittner,
Yep.
Patrigola,
No.
Ross.
Yes. Moving on to miscellaneous.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Could I just add something to that now that we've voted on it? As long as it's been approved, there will be a quorum of city council members, and so there'll be public meetings. And so as they get noticed, or am I wrong, city attorney? I see you shaking your head.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, these will all be public meetings. It's a committee appointed by the city council. They're all meetings of this ad hoc committee. In addition, with 2 civil service members, they're technically meetings of the Civil Service Commission as well, but they'll be noticed that way.
Right. So I guess my recommendation is that you schedule it when a lot of people can attend, because I think that there will be a lot of voices that need to be heard. So when you look into scheduling, I would recommend evening meetings.
Okay. Okay, moving on to 8.1, the salary survey. I think we covered that.
Number 7.
Oh, I'm sorry, personal appearances. Wow. All right, this is an opportunity for the public to come and address the council. Anybody who has an issue or question or comment for the council, this is your time. If not, we will move, oh, now we do.
Andy Sudbrink, 1205 13th Street, Southwest.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, sir.
Andrew Sudbrink.
Thank you.
You know, I missed the last meeting where I was hoping to speak here on the budget. And first of all, I support everyone up here. It takes guts to do what you do. And, you know, I don't care where you go to church. If you had a DUI, smoke pot, put an offensive tweet out on Twitter, or cheated on your wife with a transvestite. But what I cannot accept are bad financial decisions. Case in point, this wall out here. It had to be pushed through. At first it was going to be 2.4 million, then 2 million, or then 4 million, and now up to 6 was the last I heard in the paper. For what? 30 spots? Is that what it's going to create? You know, $6 million for 30 spots, that's $200,000 per parking spot. Not one citizen would think that's a good deal. If I came over to your house and dug into the side of your hill and built a retaining wall and says, here you go, 600 grand. Nobody's going to take that deal. Not one business owner is going to spend that kind of money on something like that when it isn't needed. Yet you guys thought that was a good idea and voted for it, pushed it through. And now we have to sit and debate whether or not you can afford to hire a policeman or firefighter. You know, it's embarrassing. And then after this big wall, now we're moving City Hall down to the Wells Fargo building to the tune of $20 million. If you had to sell this property, heaven forbid, what do you think you'd get for it? You might not even get $6 million. Other things that we waste money on, this cry for affordable housing. At one point, we had a huge shortage, and we had an affordable housing problem. And private industry built apartment buildings and hotels like crazy to where they overbuilt. You can rent a 2-bedroom apartment in Minot for $500 to $600. You can get a newer one with a garage for $700 to $800. And you knew this when you funded money to Epic for Blue on Broadway. Okay, everybody knew that, and you didn't. You might not have wasted the taxpayers' monies here, but you wasted America's money, giving them $2 million for that. If people aren't coming here in huge groves to live in the frozen tundra, it's build, 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 and expand when private industry can do it on its own. Now, downtown, the M building, you've got money deferred to Epic again for 20 years for property taxes. Well, Don and Betty, taxpayer, take it in the shorts. If Epic wants to do something good for the community, maybe they ought to pay their damn property taxes like everyone else in this town, and instead of selling us a $6 hot dog at the fair. I guess that's it. You know, I commend you for what you do. You've got a $180 million budget. You know, but from what I'm seeing, if I took everyone here and put them on the board of directors of a company that was worth $180 million, I think you'd run it into the ground. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nothing else? We will move on.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to respond to that. And I just want to make sure we get a clarification. It's not $20 million to move City Hall downtown. I think it's in the neighborhood of $12 million. And I think about $8 million is covered by NDR funds. And again, I think the wall outside is a great example of, one, maintaining infrastructure, but it's also the reason for increase in prices is because we've deferred that project for years. And that's what happens when you defer maintenance, whether it be in the city, infrastructure, even at your house. If you don't maintain your home and you don't put a new roof on it when you should, and you wait 20 years after the fact, well, then you've got to replace the inside of your house because it was rotten from rain. So again, I just want to make sure that those are, that misinformation is not out there. And I agree on LMI housing. I think the private sector can do a fine job of filling that gap, so.
Thank you, Paul.
I just have one more point. Apologies. So, I mean, when we had our original budget, you know, we heard from citizens and taxpayers. I mean, this is a hard year, right, for the levies with public schools levying more. And I was very proud of this governing body. Like, we took that and, you know, went into the budget and reduced, you know, it by $700,000, which was, you know, 3.09 mils from our preliminary budget, and actually a reduction of our 2022 budget. That equated to a property tax reduction of $7.24 in a $100,000 value. So, I mean, I get it, that we hear the frustration. You know, it's always a balancing act. We do the best we can. I think, you know, that 700,000 was tough to go into the budget and find ways that aren't going to impact the services to our community and the quality of living. But you know, I think sometimes it seems like we just spend, and you know, we do take into consideration, right? We're all property taxpayers as well, and so I just want to remind the public of, you know, the $700,000 we did eliminate from the upcoming budget.
If you're proud of that retaining wall,
I was not on this council when that's voted, and that is a federal program. This council did not vote for the retaining wall. That was from the NDR. Okay, well then, but it was a council before us that voted to use that money in that way, but it wasn't Minot money. And it is not just a wall for parking spots. Like, if that wall was not built, that the whole area, I mean, we could have Lance, our engineer, probably explain it much better, but, you know, the collapse of that, you know, the auditorium space into the lower space would happen. Like, I mean, that's not an if, it would be a when that would happen.
Okay. Let's move on to 8.1, which I think we already covered, correct? Move on to 8.2. This was a discussion for the, do we have a representative from the Minot State Student Association? This is kind of more for information. If this is something that the council wants to move forward with, I think we would coordinate with Minot State and their student government to have kind of a joint meeting either here or up at Minot State University, if that is something that the council wants to move forward with. Any objection to that?
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Okay. I mean, we don't, go ahead.
In conjunction with that, I've, assuming the council's agreeable to this, in my past and previous communities, I think it would be beneficial for the council to meet with several other entities throughout our community on a regular basis. And so I've begun trying to coordinate with MACEDC and other boards to schedule at least an annual meeting, joint meeting between the city council and the boards of those different entities. So I'm hoping to schedule those next year and trying to get on a pattern of doing that on a regular basis, whether that's the Parks Board, MACDC Board, the County Commission, you know, all of those different entities that play a major role within our community, that partnership matters. I've really provided an opportunity for the council to meet with them and talk about general concepts and how we can partner together, what are our challenges, and how we work together on those types of things. So I think this is right in line with what I'm hoping to accomplish here over the next 12 months as well.
Okay. Then I will be in contact, or Harold or someone from your office will be in contact with Minot State, and we'll move forward with that. Okay. 8.3, meeting schedule discussion. I think, want to take it?
Mr. Mayor, council members, I put this on here because we're getting towards the end of the year. We need the planning commission to be able to approve their meeting to then bring it to us, or the council, not us, the council to approve their meeting and the city council's 2023. It's pretty set forward in our ordinances that we meet the first and third Monday of every month unless there's a holiday on a Monday. Well, what do you do when the 4th of July is on a Tuesday? So I brought this up just for you guys to kind of discuss if you want to possibly move the meeting to Wednesday. It's also been brought up about possibly motioning to have the 3rd of July, another employee paid holiday. It's kind of up to you what you guys discuss. I just brought it here so it could be discussed publicly.
Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you very much, Michaela, for bringing that to our attention in a very timely fashion. I like what I see there with the exception of meeting on July 3rd. I think people will be taking a 4-day weekend, and I'd just as soon we meet on July 5th. I think it would be a Wednesday that week. But other than that, it looks very good to me.
And would the proposal for the paid holiday just be for 2023 because it falls on a Monday?
If I may, so the city holidays that the city observes and provides paid holidays is approved in ordinance. However, it's not a perfect situation. We run into times, especially around 4th of July and Christmas, where depending on when the holiday falls, you have one day they come to work and then they're off the next. So I tend to ask that when those happen, that whether it happens on a Monday or a Friday, that you have that day in between. So if you have a 4th of July on a Thursday, you have the day off on Thursday, and then you come back to work on Friday and you're back off on Saturday. A lot of times employees want to plan vacations and those kinds of things. So I've always seen it to be well received and boost employee morale by, in those years when those happen, to approve a one-time extra paid holiday for employees during that time frame. I did have a question today on what that costs. I'm trying to remember what I responded with. Let me look that up real quick. But at the end of the day, there's no net increase of cost to the city with providing this because regardless, the city's paying for it. You're either requiring the employee to come and work and you're paying them their paycheck, or you're telling them that they can enjoy an extra day off and we're going to pay their paycheck, but they don't have to use their vacation time to be able to do that. Per day, The city spends about $75,000 to $80,000 a day in payroll. But you're going to spend that regardless whether you require employees to work or not that day. So again, I think it's a bit inconvenient for an employee to come work one day and then have a day off. But at the same time, if that's what the council wants to require, then that's what we want. But while we were having this conversation about when to have the city council meeting, with the way the day falls with the 4th of July, I was also asking the council consideration on this issue as well.
Would it be acceptable to make a motion, since this is not partners? I'll make a motion to approve the meeting schedule and provide the July 3rd, Monday of 2023 as a paid holiday for city employees.
Second.
And the July 5th, correct?
No,
And July 5th meeting.
And July 5th meeting.
Yeah.
Like, we're giving them July.
So we have a motion
Nancy,
in about 6 seconds.
so just to clarify, I mean, I think this is just for this coming year. It is like having a floating paid holiday or what Harold is proposing. I would like the ad hoc committee, on the benefits and, to consider that as part of, moving forward as something that is offered or given to employees. But I just, for the, right now, let's just do the July 3rd, 2023.
Mark?
I guess just a little bit of a history piece here. We used to have to do this every time, there was a weekend where a holiday intersected. Back a few years ago, I think when Lee Staub was the city manager, we passed what we have now, where basically, those holidays are taken care of. So this is sort of an exceptional case. I think it makes sense, and I'm going to support the motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Lisa.
So just kind of dovetailing off of what Alderman Janser said, we did used to vote on it. It was always the Christmas holidays is what we were particularly looking at it until it went into ordinance. How does Christmas fall in 2023? Because I know that some years there's 2 days off and some years there's just a day off. So I know we've had that schedule and I don't have it in front of me, so.
Christmas Day is on a Monday and Christmas Eve would be on a Sunday. And New Year's Day is on a Monday.
So our employees would be losing one of the Christmas days in 2023. So this kind of makes up for it, correct? Because usually we end up giving about an extra day at Christmas, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe I'm off base with that. Maybe we need Ms. Junt up here, but.
My understanding is that the Christmas holiday is scheduled pretty clearly in policy.
Yes.
But the 4th of July holiday is not.
Exactly, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, I think we would give them this day because in the end, they're gonna lose a day. It's, I think if people are concerned that we're adding another vacation day, we aren't because of the way that Christmas falls at the end of the year. Am I making sense? I think Ms. Junt's nodding her head. I think I'm going in the right direction.
Mr. Mayor, Alderwoman Olson, you are correct. For example, if Christmas fell in the middle of the week, we would be giving them off 2 days for Christmas. So
Yes.
you are correct. In this particular case, we're only going to have 1 day off for Christmas. So.
Yes, so it's kind of an even Steven then, they're just getting in at a different point in 2023.
That's
So,
correct.
yes, thank you. I'm glad I'm not crazy. So I feel, I can support this.
Just a point of order with regards to the schedule for the council meeting. Council is not taking action on approving all of the city council dates for next year. You're just giving staff direction so that the Planning and Zoning Commission schedule can be coordinated with that. The full schedule, including this directive from council tonight, will come back for full council approval in November.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Pittner?
Yep.
Padragula?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Striley?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9, that is adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Paul,
Second.
second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.